A thin line between love and hate looks exactly like a 90s comedy thriller. Fast, funny, and built entirely around the kind of explosive charisma that made Martin Lawrence one of the most watchable performers of his entire generation. But underneath everything you see on the surface sits something considerably more interesting and considerably more complicated. A Billy Wilder homage buried inside a Black Hollywood production that most critics never bothered to look closely enough to find. A 25-year-old R&B song handing a 1996 film its entire title, its entire theme, and its entire emotional identity. And a production schedule so punishing, so relentlessly compressed, and so fundamentally unreasonable that it came close to destroying the man responsible for holding all of it together. He wrote it. He directed it. He starred in it. He produced it. 6 creative hats worn by one person on one project while 2 other major productions were running at the exact same time. A Bag of Oranges became one of the most unforgettable props in 1990s cinema. A future SNL legend made his feature film debut behind a bar without a single person in the audience paying attention to him. And a Touched by an Angel star was playing a devoted Christian mother in an R-rated theatrical release while simultaneously portraying a literal angel in prime-time CBS family programming during the exact same week. These are 14 weird, specific, and largely overlooked facts about a thin line between love and hate. And stay for the bonus at the end, because 5 weeks after this film opened in theaters, something took place on a boulevard in Los Angeles that explains, more clearly and more honestly than anything else ever has, why Martin Lawrence has never directed another film in the 30 years since. There's a thin line. Let's cross it. Number 1. A Thin Line Between Love and Hate is the only film Martin Lawrence has ever directed. He said it himself, years later, with the particular weight of someone who had genuinely survived something and was still processing what it had cost him. The thin line between love and hate that I directed, damn, near killed me. Almost didn't make it through that movie. That's crazy. 'Cause I was doing everything. I was acting, I was writing, I was producing. In 1996, Martin Lawrence stepped behind a camera for the first and only time in his professional career. A Thin Line Between Love and Hate is not simply his most ambitious project. It is the only feature film he has ever directed. He wrote it, produced it, executive produced it, and starred in it on top of carrying all directorial responsibilities from the first day of pre-production through the final day of the shoot. He co-wrote the screenplay with Bentley Kyle Evans, Kenny Buford, and Kim Bass, while retaining the sole story credit for himself. He also served as the film's music supervisor, which brought his total creative role count on a single production to 6. As of 2026, Lawrence has maintained a remarkably steady acting career across 30 full years. Bad Boys 2, The Big Mama's House Trilogy, Wild Hogs, Death at the Funeral, Bad Boys Ride or Die. A BET plus Martin reunion special that reminded everyone exactly how good he had always been. But across all of it, across every project and every credit accumulated over 3 decades of consistent work, he has never once returned to the director's chair. Not for a film. Not for a single episode of his own television shows. Not for anything. The reasons have never been explained publicly in any real depth. What is simply and undeniably true is that the only Martin Lawrence directorial credit that exists anywhere is the film this entire list is built around. Number 2. The film was pitched as Hollywood's male answer to Waiting to Exhale. In late 1995, Hollywood found itself sitting with a hit it had not anticipated and did not fully know what to do with. Waiting to Exhale, directed by Forrest Whitaker from Terry McMillan's widely loved novel, had earned over $81 million at the domestic box office and owned the cultural conversation around Black female friendship, solidarity, and the specific kinds of emotional damage that the wrong men can leave behind. Producer Dag McHenry looked at that success and saw an opening. He pitched A Thin Line Between Love and Hate as the direct creative and commercial response to that moment. In a Baltimore Sun interview timed to the film's release, McHenry described it as the male side to the Waiting to Exhale coin, a framing that was built entirely as a marketing strategy and landed almost immediately as a controversy. Waiting to Exhale had been received and celebrated as a genuinely feminist piece of cinema, a film about women sustaining and protecting each other through the wreckage caused by the men in their lives. Critics looked at Thin Line and saw something they considered almost diametrically opposed to that spirit. A male-centered story about a dangerous, obsessive woman methodically trying to destroy a man's life, being sold specifically as the counterpart to a film that had honored Black women's emotional experiences. Entertainment Weekly addressed the framing directly in its review and did not treat it gently. The male answer positioning followed the film through every week of its theatrical run. The marketing pitch survived. The cultural conversation it was attempting to enter did not welcome it. Number 3. The title was taken directly from a 1971 R&B song by the Persuaders. The phrase that gives this film its name, its atmosphere, and its entire emotional premise was already nearly 25 years old when Martin Lawrence decided to put it on a movie poster. Thin Line Between Love and Hate was a 1971 R&B recording by the Persuaders, a New York vocal group whose sound belonged to the kind of late-night radio that made people feel understood in the dark. The song was written and produced by the Palladino brothers, Robert and Richard, working alongside co-writer Jackie members. It became by a significant margin the defining hit of the Persuaders' recording career. The song held the #1 position on the Billboard R&B chart for 2 consecutive weeks in late 1971, reached number 15 on the Billboard Hot 100, and eventually received a gold certification from the RIA. The lyrics follow a man whose partner, pushed steadily past every reasonable limit, finally and decisively turns the situation back on him. The thematic connection to Lawrence's film is not a loose interpretation. It is a perfect match. The Persuaders had already written the complete plot of this movie in 3 minutes of music a full quarter-century before Lawrence ever looked through a viewfinder. The Pretenders covered the song in 1984 and reintroduced it to a different generation. Lawrence's use of the title in 1996 handed it to yet another generation entirely, most of whom had no idea they were inheriting something that old. Number 4. Tracy Morgan made his feature film debut in this movie. Before 30 Rock made him one of the most quoted comic performers of his generation. Before 7 seasons on Saturday Night Live built him a genuinely devoted national following. Before the comedy specials and the near-fatal accident and the extraordinary comeback that followed it. Before any of that existed, Tracy Morgan was standing behind a bar in a Martin Lawrence film, uncredited, unnoticed, and completely invisible to the audience that came to see someone else entirely. Morgan's small bartender role in A Thin Line Between Love and Hate is his first feature film credit. He had been working the stand-up circuit since 1985 and was on the edge of the moment that would change the entire direction of his professional life. 5 months after Thin Line opened, Morgan joined the Saturday Night Live cast for a run that lasted 7 seasons, from 1996 through 2003. Brian Fellow, Astronaut Jones, Woodrow, characters that lodged themselves permanently in the memory of anyone who watched them. His portrayal of Tracy Jordan on 30 Rock from 2006 to 2013 turned him into one of the most endlessly repeatable and genuinely beloved comic actors of his era. He survived a near-fatal highway accident in 2014 and returned to work in a way that surprised even the people closest to him. He has continued building his career steadily through The Last OG and beyond. The entire trajectory, every landmark and every achievement in it, traces its origin point back to a quiet, uncredited moment behind a bar in a movie that nobody in 1996 was watching for the bartenders. Number 5. Lynn Whitfield created the film's most iconic scene from a real story her father had told her. The single most discussed and most remembered moment in A Thin Line Between Love and Hate was not written by Martin Lawrence. It was not written by any of the 4 credited screenwriters. It came from a story that Lynn Whitfield's father had shared with her about a real patient, years before this film had been conceived by anyone. In the scene, Whitfield's character Brandy takes a bag of oranges, wraps them inside a stocking, and beats herself deliberately and methodically in the face with them in order to manufacture the convincing appearance of a physical assault. The scene is precise, deeply uncomfortable, and absolutely impossible to shake once you have watched it. It became one of the most referenced individual moments in 1990s thriller cinema and has stayed in the conversation ever since. Whitfield confirmed in a Ricky Smiley morning show interview that the idea was entirely hers. Her father practiced dentistry in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and a patient had once confided in him about using that exact method to fake injuries believably. Whitfield filed that detail away and carried it directly into pre-production conversations with Lawrence. He agreed without hesitation to put it in the film. The element that elevated the scene from memorable to genuinely iconic was Lawrence's own contribution. The door slamming in the immediate aftermath of the orange sequence was his idea. Whitfield provided the foundation. Lawrence added the punctuation. The combination of those 2 instincts, arriving from 2 completely different creative places, produced the scene that defines the film 30 years later. Number 6. Lynn Whitfield was already a Primetime Emmy winner before she agreed to take this role. I want to thank the Academy for the nomination and for this award. The woman carrying the full dramatic weight of A Thin Line Between Love and Hate was not being given an opportunity when she signed on. She was already an Emmy winner with serious dramatic credentials and a historically significant industry achievement behind her name. In 1991, 5 years before this film reached theaters, Lynn Whitfield won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actress in a miniseries or a movie for her performance in HBO's The Josephine Baker Story. She played the legendary entertainer across the full arc of an extraordinary life, from grinding poverty in East St. Louis through international stardom in Paris and fierce political activism on 2 continents. Whitfield was the first African-American actress ever to win in that Emmy category. By the time Lawrence and producer Dag McHenry brought her in to play Brandy Webb, they were not casting a supporting player or hoping for the best. They were deliberately hiring an Emmy-winning dramatic actress and asking her to inhabit a comedy thriller villain with the full weight of her craft. They needed someone capable of sustaining menace and seduction at identical levels of intensity, someone who could take material that the script alone could not fully support and lift it through the quality of her performance. Variety's reviews singled her out as the film's one genuine asset. That verdict was not wrong. The Emmy winner did the heaviest and most demanding lifting on a movie that no one had designed to be carried by acting. Number 7. Roger Troutman came in for one song and ended up composing the entire score. The funk innovator whose recordings became foundational source material for some of the most significant hip-hop productions ever made was originally commissioned to deliver a single track. He left with a full composer credit. Roger Troutman, founder of Zapp and one of the most technically distinctive talkbox performers in the history of recorded music, an artist whose work Tupac, Dr. Dre, and dozens of others would sample across the following decades, was approached by Lawrence to write one song. The track was called Chocolate City, named after the nightclub Lawrence's character Darnell runs through the film. Troutman delivered it. The producers then asked him to record a cover version of the title song in collaboration with R&B group Ton and vocalist Shirley Murdoch. He delivered that as well. After both pieces came in and impressed, the producers returned a third time and asked Troutman to score the film's entire dramatic side. He accepted, and a single song commission became a full scoring credit on a feature film. He described the gradual and somewhat unexpected expansion of his involvement in a Funky magazine interview conducted at the time, expressing genuine surprise at how far the scope had grown from the original conversation. It became one of his final significant film projects. Roger Troutman died in 1999, 3 years after the film opened. Number 8. The entire film was shot on location in Los Angeles across just 8 weeks. A Thin Line Between Love and Hate is a film that belongs completely to Los Angeles, and it was made entirely there without exception. Principal photography ran from June 5th through August 11th of 1995. No sound stages substituting for real city locations. No exterior shooting in cheaper markets standing in for LA. No production relocation to more financially attractive destinations. Every frame was captured on location in the actual city of Los Angeles, a commitment that was notable even at the time and considerably more unusual given that 1995 was precisely the period when productions had begun routinely decamping to Canada, Georgia, and other markets offering substantially friendlier cost structures. The 8-week schedule was demanding under any circumstances. For a first-time director simultaneously serving as lead actor, producer, executive producer, and music supervisor on the same project, it was an extraordinary compression. First-time directors working on projects of comparable scale typically negotiate for more time. Lawrence accepted 8 weeks and built everything inside that window. The timeline fed directly and consequentially into the pressure he was living under every single day of the shoot. 6 roles, 1 body, 8 weeks, Los Angeles summer heat. The film was made quickly. The damage done in making it quickly is inseparable from the rest of the story. Number 9. Della Reese was simultaneously playing an angel on the most wholesome drama on American television. The actress delivering Martin Lawrence's fiercely protective, deeply religious mother in an R-rated theatrical release was, during the exact same period, portraying a divine messenger on the most warmly family-oriented drama airing on network television. Della Reese plays Ma Wright in A Thin Line Between Love and Hate, a character who is grounded, devoutly faithful, and entirely unwilling to allow anyone to bring harm to her son without a direct and physical response. In the film's most viscerally charged scene, she confronts Brandy when the stalker escalates the situation to her front door, providing the confrontation that drives the third act to its conclusion. Simultaneously, Reese was starring as Tess on CBS's Touched by an Angel, a show that had launched September 21, 1994, and was performing as one of the network's most reliable and widely watched series by April of 1996. She was playing a messenger from God dispatched to help human beings navigate their darkest and most desperate moments, in programming designed for the entire family. At the precise same time, she was playing Lawrence's sharp-tongued and physically formidable mother in a film with an R rating. Touched by an Angel continued for 9 seasons through 2003 and ultimately defined the final chapter of her career more than any other single role. During the week A Thin Line opened, the same audience could watch Della Reese deliver a beatdown in a movie theater and then go home and watch her deliver divine grace on a television screen. Number 10. Bobby Brown's silver tooth and Martin Lawrence's gold tooth were formally credited as custom makeup effects work. Nice young single black, nice little tight body. The production treated its dental prosthetics with enough seriousness to document them in the official credits. A Thin Line Between Love and Hate carries a dedicated special makeup effects laboratory technician credit listed specifically for Martin Lawrence's gold tooth and Bobby Brown's silver tooth. Both were individually fabricated dental prosthetics, built from scratch for each actor. The credit is documented in the full crew listing on IMDb and appears as a line item in various prints of the film. These were not casual costume decisions made in a hurry. Lawrence's character Darnell operates as a nightclub manager living inside a specific and precisely rendered version of mid-90s urban entertainment culture. Brown's character T functions as his closest associate and right hand. Both men exist in a world where personal presentation carried specific and understood meaning, where gold chains, carefully chosen clothing, and a gold or silver front tooth were not accessories but statements. The film's entire approach to costume and prosthetics was built to place the audience inside a defined cultural and economic reality and hold them there. The credit stands out because of the level of intentionality behind it. The production did not improvise the dental work and move on. They commissioned individual prosthetics, credited the craftsperson who built them, and treated 2 teeth as legitimate and documented contributions to the film's craft. Number 11. The film was made for $8 million and earned nearly $35 million. A Thin Line Between Love and Hate is one of the quietest and most efficient financial successes in black cinema from 1996, and the numbers make the case without any assistance. The production budget was approximately $8 million, a modest figure for a wide-release feature carrying a major star, a national studio distribution deal, and a full marketing campaign operating behind it. The film opened April 3, 1996, through New Line Cinema and Savoy Pictures across 1,131 theaters. The opening weekend performed solidly. The full theatrical run closed at $34.8 million domestically, a return of better than 4-to-1 before home video, cable licensing, soundtrack revenue, or 3 decades of accumulated long-tail value are factored in at all. The critical reception was, in the plainest possible terms, brutal. 15% on Rotten Tomatoes. Variety called it tedious. Other publications reached for similarly dismissive language. The audience paid none of it any attention whatsoever. They came, they watched, and they returned the film's budget more than 4 times over. Number 12. The opening pool scene was a direct and deliberate homage to Billy Wilder's Sunset Boulevard. The first image a thin line between love and hate presents to its audience is a quiet and serious tribute to a 1950 film that the overwhelming majority of people watching in 1996 had almost certainly never encountered. The film opens on Darnell floating face down in a swimming pool, blood moving through the water around him, narrating in voiceover the decisions and events that carried him to this particular ending. The structure is a conscious and deliberate homage to Billy Wilder's Sunset Boulevard, which opens on William Holden's Joe Gillis dead in a Hollywood pool, narrating the story of how he arrived there. Sunset Boulevard is regarded as one of the greatest American films ever produced. 11 Academy Award nominations. 3 wins. Taught in film schools worldwide as the definitive model for how to construct a narrative around a dead man recounting the sequence of choices that destroyed him. For a first-time Black director to ground his debut in one of the most formally prestigious and academically studied films in Hollywood history is not a small or casual creative choice. Lawrence was not winking at Wilder or holding him at ironic distance. He was using Wilder's architecture to give his comedy thriller a foundation in classical storytelling. Underneath the oranges and the gold tooth and every surface-level element of the production, a genuine conversation with Billy Wilder is quietly taking place. Number 13. Martin Lawrence had 3 major projects running simultaneously during production. The schedule Lawrence had built for himself across the spring and summer of 1995 belongs in a category of professional overextension that very few people in any industry have ever attempted and survived. Bad Boys, his breakout film opposite Will Smith directed by Michael Bay, had opened April 7, 1995. Lawrence was still actively promoting it through spring and into summer. On June 5, less than 2 months after Bad Boys opened, he began directing A Thin Line Between Love and Hate. His Fox sitcom Martin was simultaneously in production on its 4th season, premiering on network television in September 1995. 3 major projects in parallel. Promoting a wide-release studio film. Directing his first feature. Starring weekly in a hit network sitcom. On Thin Line alone, he was carrying 6 roles: director, lead actor, co-screenwriter, sole story credit, executive producer, music supervisor. He brought Bentley Kyle Evans, his own sitcom showrunner, onto the screenplay team. Lawrence himself and those who observed that period closely have both pointed to it as the direct origin of everything that followed. Too many projects, too many roles, too little sleep, too many months of running on empty before the body and the mind finally presented a bill that could not be deferred any further. Number 14. Martin Lawrence has not directed another film in the 30 years since. Direct another movie again? Probably not. Yeah. A Thin Line Between Love and Hate opened April 3, 1996. 30 years have passed. Lawrence has not directed again. The acting career built across those 3 decades is genuinely impressive. Bad Boys 2, Bad Boys for Life, Bad Boys Ride or Die. 3 Big Mama's house films. Blue Streak, Wild Hogs, Death at the Funeral, Welcome Home Roscoe Jenkins. A BET Plus Martin reunion special in 2022. A BET Plus Martin series in 2024. Co-starring, producing, headlining, executive producing. Everything except directing. The detailed reasons have never been laid out publicly by Lawrence in any comprehensive way. What is documented is that the serious mental health events of 1996 happened during and directly after his one directorial effort, and that he has without exception chosen to remain in front of the camera on every project in the decade since. 1 film. 1 director's chair credit. Almost certainly permanent. Bonus. 5 weeks after the film opened, Martin Lawrence had a public breakdown on Ventura Boulevard. Everything this list has been quietly building toward arrives in a single news cycle from May 1996. On May 7, 1996, just over 1 month after A Thin Line Between Love and Hate was playing in theaters across the country, Martin Lawrence was detained by Los Angeles police in Sherman Oaks. Witnesses described him walking in live traffic on Ventura Boulevard around 12:30 in the afternoon, shouting at passing vehicles. Officers found a handgun in his pocket. He was taken to Sherman Oaks Hospital and Health Center. His representatives cited exhaustion and dehydration. Police reports pointed to a possible medical episode connected to missed prescribed medication. Lawrence has addressed the period only in carefully limited terms across everything that has followed. It was the first of several serious incidents running through 1996 and into 1997. Ventura Boulevard was where the public chapter of an extremely difficult stretch of years began. He went on. Life, Blue Streak, Big Mama's House. He never directed again. The film he had written, directed, produced, and poured himself completely into is still in theaters on the day the incident happened. Audiences were watching his comedy thriller. The man who made it was in a hospital. A thin line between love and hate was never reaching for Citizen Kane. It was Martin Lawrence at the full height of his powers, running without hesitation at a Billy Wilder homage, a 1971 Persuader song, and 3 overlapping projects that no single person should have attempted to hold together at once. Critics took it apart. Audiences pushed it to $34 million anyway. Lynn Whitfield carried it with everything she had. Della Reese punctuated the third act with complete conviction. A Bag of Oranges became an icon that has outlasted almost everything else from that year. 30 years later, the line sits exactly where Lawrence drew it. If this one stays with you, drop a comment and tell us which 90s film deserves the deep dive next. Because some movies do not disappear. They live on the thin line. Thanks for watching.